In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nick Marshall, and on this episode of Liberty First TV, I am with Kevin Dixie. Kevin Dixie is the owner of No Other Choice Concealed Carry Training. Kevin, I was first introduced, or not introduced, I first found out about Kevin through a podcast that I was listening to, and some of the things that he had to say were very along the lines of what I believe. He believes in that we are part of a community first and foremost, and that as part of that community, it is also our obligation to help protect that community as a whole. And with that, I will let Kevin give you a little bit more background about what he does and his operation.
Oh, sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on today. I appreciate that. As far as No Other Choice Firearms Training, so I'm a multifaceted guy. I like to say I am attempting to bring back the great Renaissance man in a way. But when it comes to firearms training, No Other Choice is a company that I started officially in 2013. I was training before then, but I didn't LLC myself for whatever reason. But in 2013, I did LLC. So we're celebrating our sixth year in official business this year. But I've been teaching into firearms for quite a while. I started my endeavor, my professional endeavor, I will say, into firearms and firearms training and everything, understanding self-defense and just everything it encompasses. Right when I was 21 years old, I started off with the St. Louis City Police Department. I worked in a division called the Prisoner Processing Division. I think around the country you call them jailers. I think that's the overall general term. Except our position was a little bit more in detail. We had to go through the academy firearms training. We had to be proficient with firearms. Our details included more than just the detainment of inmates. We had other functions we had to go through. But all that to be said, I didn't even expect when I got the job I was going to be exposed to so much dealing with firearms training. But when I went down, I was the kid. You know, when I went down at 21, I walked into a room with a bunch of serious guys that knew everything there was to know about guns, and they put this thing in my head and said, point the thing at the thing, and it went boom. And I was like, whatever that was, it was awesome. You know, can you tell me more about this? So even from the first time I shot one in that realm, that professional realm, like I was that, you know, that kind of that person that they're annoying you, but in a good way. Because I was like, well, why did it go boom? Like, what made it go boom? Like, why did I hold it that way? Well, who made this thing? How long has it been around? Like, just all these questions. And I fell in love with it, man. I fell in love. It was love at first shot, literally. And so I started to geek out and ask questions. And I spent years just chasing the academy guys and, you know, every officer, and I just loved it. So I decided that after watching people in my capacity as a profession, I watched a lot of good people make bad decisions. Good people. They just made silly decisions. Thinking that self-defense is common sense, and I tell people it's not. At the same time, my job was to deal with people that were living, walking nightmares.
Right.
The things that literally they write horror movies off of, right? So that was my job. That's who I dealt with. That's who I had to be face to face with. And inside of my facility, you didn't have a gun. Your guns were in the sally port, you know. So you have to learn a lot about self-defense. You have to learn a lot about reading people, just all the things that we never really talk about, you know. All those other things that go into it. So what I decided to do was a twofold thing. I wanted to give people the skill sets and the knowledge to keep them from, in a legal aspect, being the bad guy. I don't want you making decisions and we take what's a relatively great person, and now we you know, you're a felon for the rest of your life, you know, and you might do some prison time. Like, I don't want to see that happen to you. At the same time, I don't believe in you being disarmed. I just want, because of the creatures that walk the earth, you need to be able to protect yourself against them. So I started No Other Choice. It was, I want you to make sure before you ever deploy the skills that I'm going to teach you, or whatever tools at your disposal, that you are truly at a point of no other choice before you ever use those tools, as long as you or another innocent person aren't going to be victimized in any way. And it's a great way to extend God's grace and mercy to another human being, even if they deserve it, as long as you're not allowing yourself to be a victim in the process. And then from there, it just kept going.
Right. Well, I love that philosophy of doing everything you can to de-escalate the situation that's at hand without putting yourself or somebody else in danger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, first and foremost, you're working to protect your life. But if you can do that through nonviolent means, that is far better, because you never know. You may change that person's life that was confronting you. You just don't know. I mean, God works in some very miraculous way, and just that simple instance could turn somebody's life completely around. We don't know. But if you take his life because you're defending yours prematurely, then we will never know what was going to happen and what that life could have turned into.
True. Very true.
I know you're very involved in your community and other communities across the nation. In that interview, you talked about a school that you were working with. Could you go into a little bit of detail about what that was about?
Yeah, I work with several schools now, and that's that's a fight all itself, right? You know, having schools actually trust you with their students because of guns. Let's just face facts, right? The way that they're portrayed. So the couple of schools I work with, the most recent one that's on social media is I'm actually working with a counseling service that goes into middle schools, and they're basically focused on making sure that these kids understand that life is obtainable. Don't give up. You know, some of the hardships that go on at home, how to stay focused and things like that. So I met Melissa through some mutual friends, and so she said, "Hey, you know, why don't you come in and talk to the kids?" So I went in, and it's something I do all the time. But I went in and I basically sat back. It's like, yeah, this is who I am. Not that I'm a gun guy. This is just who I am. And throughout the process, the kids found out what I do.
Right.
And it was just giving them life skills and lessons, because my background is the one you hear about a lot, right? It's sensationalized in movies and things like that. But, you know, hey, I lived in the mess. I don't know which other way to call it. I don't like saying the hood. That to me is just, it puts because everybody that lives in the neighborhood or the hood per se, it's not bad. They're not evil and they're not stupid or uneducated. But it was a mess. I mean, there's no other way around it. So I tell people all the time, and I even told those kids, you know, when I came outside every day, at the corner of my street was a tombstone retailer. Across the street was the biggest cemetery, and prostitution, drug dealing, gang banging, the whole 9 yards, like at your front door. Not you got to go around the corner to see it, you know, right outside. So going in and working with children of all ages to remind them, first of all, don't allow your present to be your future. You know, you don't allow that to guide you. But they need to see an obtainable, and I'm not saying it's not obtainable, they need to see a more common goal to set out for it. Because, you know, we can have them watch movie stars and athletes and entertainers, and those people are like 0.00 point something percent. That's why they're so special, right? That's why they're so unique and so talented, is because it's a rarity. And yeah, exactly. Not saying don't pursue those things. At the same time, they need to see somebody where you can come from these neighborhoods and yet still get a college education, still raise a great family. You can change your generation. So I work with those kids to guide them in that direction. And that particular day, we were talking about the school to prison pipeline and how we can snap and break that system. Right. And obviously, because of my background and where I come from, I had a unique perspective on that. So we talked about that. Normally, I pick a school every year, and I adopt a classroom. And no other choice, by adopting that classroom, we are not talking at all to these children about guns. What we are doing is we're talking to them about great life skills. We're having fun with them. I've put out videos where you see me doing pizza parties for kids that had the best attendance, giving away prizes to the kids that had the best improved grades and behavior. And it's coming in and talking to them. I show up to their school dances. We donate to their step teams and our organizations. We are involved in the school. And we're not there talking about guns, but we are representing the gun community.
Well,
we are. And that's where the beauty comes in at, because you get to see me as the guys that we all are, We just aren't. We just happen not to right now be talking about guns. So you don't have any kind of bias toward me. You're like, oh, you're helping, and the kids love you, and you get hugs, and you come, you bring the teachers donuts and orange juice for no reason. You donate money to the classrooms, and so that's why we have the nonprofit section of No Other Choice, which is called Aiming for the Truth. And through that, and we're just part of the community. Now, what happens is the teachers the adults in the room, they're like, hey, about this gun thing. And then you start those conversations on a totally different platform. And I'm like, hey, yeah, we can do that. So I've had, I don't know, every bit of, since I've been working with the schools, nothing less of 60, 70 educators that I've trained now in firearms.
Awesome.
So that's how we get involved with the school. So that's what we do.
And that's the thing is, I like the way that you aren't forcing gun views down people's throats. But you are presenting yourself in a way that people can get to know who you are. Okay, and the fact is, part of who you are is you are a gun owner. You are a gun rights advocacy. And that in and of itself is very telling. That's what we as gun owners, we need to quit hiding behind the fact that we are gun owners. And we need to present the fact that we are everyday human beings like everybody else that's out there. Regardless of whether you like guns or don't like guns. The first thing is we are all human beings. Mm-hmm. We are men and women. And we do the best we can with the hands that we are dealt with. And we need to have those types of conversations along the way. And I think a lot of those conversations will actually have more of an impact than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Being human first. It works.
Right.
You put the Second Amendment community, and it's part of the, I've spoken to crowds and crowds and crowds and podcasts and travel and, magazines and shows and TV and everything. And one thing I'm trying to always tell our community as far as gun owners is this. How you're just, and not you in particular, but, you're just a mom or an entrepreneur or a carpenter or a plumber or a landscaper, and you're a good person, just do that. Just do that, and people will open up and talk to you. You don't have to be so. I get why we're angry and venomous. I'm not saying I don't understand, but at the same time, there are opportunities where, if you just be you, people will gravitate towards you, and then they won't have such a prejudice against what you love. Just allow that to happen. Be yourself.
Well, that's one of the founding principles of the Liberty First Foundation is to literally change the perception people have about guns and gun owners. Okay, and one of the best ways of doing that is, just like you said, having normal, everyday conversations with people. Mm-hmm. Okay, don't force the issue about guns, because right there you're going to lose a lot of your audience if you start right in on that. Okay, have a conversation with somebody. Talk to them. Talk about whatever. Talk about what's going on in schools, what's going on in life. Okay, have those conversations. Let them get to know you as a person. Eventually, they will adjust the conversation around to guns and gun ownership. But you need to have the conversation, let them get to know you as who you are. Okay?
Absolutely.
And you're not the gun. Okay? You are a person. You are doing the best you can with whatever you are. And like you said, the majority of people are good people. They're just doing whatever they can to get through life. Okay? And they are making the best of whatever situation they find themselves in. And that's what we have to realize. And those are the conversations that we have to have.
Absolutely.
You, as a part, if I'm not mistaken, as part of fundraising for your nonprofit, you came out with a couple of guns that are very unique in the fact that they can open up those conversations. Would you mind talking about those for a little bit?
Sure, and let me apologize now because they're only 5 feet from me inside of my safe, but I forgot to get them out of the safe and unlock. But I can do that. I'll just have to get up and walk over to the safe and grab them.
You can pause the video, and we can do.
Okay. Let me go grab those.
Okay.
I want you to do more than just shoot guns. I want you to do more than just buy gadgets and gadgets. You need to get emotionally involved. You need to be passionate about it. So gun control is a damn lie. Welcome to the truth. My ancestors paid the price. I'm just the receipt.
Okay, sorry about that, folks. Little break. Kevin has retrieved his handguns, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to him, let him explain what they are.
All right, so I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the guns. So I will make this really brief. I'll try to keep it under 90 seconds because there's a lot of content, hours of it literally, and well over a couple of million people have now viewed it. So the information out there, and I'll definitely leave it with your audience how to find the long-gated explanations. But in short, I wanted to, as an instructor, as a guy, as a person that feels like he has a right to have an input as far as machinery goes, the gun itself. I decided that I wanted to put out my own firearm. But at first, the story of the gun was just going to be mine. I just wanted a one-on-one, just what I want on my gun, and it was going to be it. I watched other guys be really successful, so I'm close friends with Coleon Noir and Ken Scott with Provectus Group, and I watched Noir and put out his signature gun. I'm like, wow, man, that's inspiration. And I don't want I don't want anybody to be sensitive. I'm just going to say what I say, but it was a big deal for me, not only to watch one of the guys that had been really pushing the movement of the Second Amendment forward in the country. He's a black guy to put out a gun.
Right.
Like, what? Like if you can't recognize the beauty in that change of, I'm like, what? So I was inspired. I'm like, wow, that is awesome. Look at that incredible thing occurred. And then Ken Scott came out and did the exact same thing, like I guess about a year and a half later. And I'm like, wow, made a couple of jokes about it in a loving way. I love both of those guys' guns. Made a couple of jokes about them. Was doing my part to promote their guns, and then I had this design I was working on for a couple of years. Got kicked into Keisha by one of the designers, one of the guys that actually cut the gun up, and he was like, "Yeah, what are you waiting on?" And next thing you know, we came out with a gun based off the HK-VP9 platform and the HK-VP9 SK with my spin on it. But as we were doing the gun, I was like, it's not enough to put out a gun. I am much more than a gun guy. Now, I love firearms, love them and love them and love them and love them. But I have a mission, and there's something that I bring to the table, and I don't want to lose that. I want to lose that and just put it on a piece of machinery. So it was another idea that I had been wanting to do for well over a year. I was like, this is the opportunity to do it. So I got with J&L Machining and MLS Customs, and these guys knocked the gun out the park. I knew we were going to have an awesome piece of machinery. My question was, how do we help?
Right.
Because putting out a new gun is great. Yeah, because you put out another product. So in a long scheme of things, yeah, because, okay, now we can say we got minorities putting out guns. We got women, shooting guns. We got diversity occurring all over the place. This is great. Yeah, for the long term, that does look good. I don't argue that. But what are we doing to help? So when you look at gun control and things about gun control, you see that gun control is indeed it's a lie. It's deceitful at its core. And I'm not talking about the modern day gun control that's masked up to be this common sense thing that seems to be this great effort we should all be behind. I'm talking about its roots and where it comes from. See, it's masked now, but before it learned how to pretty itself up, what did it look like? And I wanted to talk about those things in a way that would make people uncomfortable, but would educate you. Right. And at the same time, would educate everybody in a way it was like, this is why gun control is bad. So all that to be said, I wanted to put out the first guns to fight gun control. And that's exactly what I did. And how do we do that? So even before I show the audience the guns, I'll start off with one of the most important parts. And I won't run these stories all the way down. You can please go watch the videos. I'll have more content coming out, but Google is also your friend.
Well, we'll make sure to include links to the full videos and the full story behind each of these guns in our show notes.
Oh, awesome. So I urge you guys to go watch that. So this, which the lighting, trust me, doesn't do this thing justice, but this is one of the first cases you can open. All right. I have found, and of course I don't have stats to prove these numbers, but I've known this for a while. I'm going to say at least 90% of Americans do not know about Black Wall Street. And out of the 10% that do, I guarantee only 2 to 3% of those might actually know some details, and maybe 1% of those people actually know what happened.
I have to admit, I was one of those until I saw your video that did not know about Black Wall Street, did not know anything about it. You actually inspired me to find out more about it. So, and
you see, and look, that's what I mean. You're obviously a gun dude. You're obviously out there fighting for the rights. You're speaking, using your platform. You're building your voice. You're out there rallying people up, and that's great. So when I say I'm coming out with the first Guns to Fight gun control, it goes deeper than what you see at the surface. Even guys like yourself that don't need any more convincing about why gun control is a bad thing. You're there, right? But I can definitely educate you on a different perspective. So now I'm adding more weapons to your arsenal and conversations. Mm-hmm. And that's what we do, because when you talk about places like this and incidents that happen, and I urge the audience to, go watch the videos and really get into the details of what happened. And then after the videos, go do exactly what Mike did. Go research it and be inspired by it. So Black Wall Street was essentially, in summary, a town in Tulsa, Oklahoma, if you will, a suburb in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that was eradicated from the face of the earth in 24 hours. It was a community of Black people eradicated from the face of the earth within 24 hours by law enforcement and the surrounding community members. And not one person, with 300 people killed, not one single person was arrested. Mm-hmm. Not one. All right. So when you talk about tyranny, it doesn't get more tyrannical than that when the local law enforcement and the community members are murdering you, killing your kids in the street. So much so, there is a story, which I'm going to put out more details about, of a veteran. Happened to be a Black man, but he was a veteran. And he said, I'm going to put on my uniform and stand in the front yard of my house because clearly my American brethren won't shoot me dead. And I'm a veteran.
Yeah.
He went outside in his uniform and stood proudly, stood at attention and stood proudly. They murdered him and burnt down his home. So it is really talking about the evil that exists when you talk about gun control. Now, in Black Wall Street, these individuals could have certain guns. They were vets. Some of them did have long guns. And what I try to educate people on is inadequate arms is the same as being disarmed.
Right.
So that whole thing about, oh, you can have this, but you can't have that. Inadequate arms, you might as well not have a gun, right? It's still going to be a losing fight. So that's exactly what happened to them. You look at rules like the Army-Navy law that existed then, where many minorities couldn't own handguns, so they didn't have a way of having access to all the arms other individuals had. And there were financial barriers, and there was all kind of other things going on. Jim Crow, where it made the slaughter, you can kill 300 people in 24 hours.
Yeah.
It made it easy for them. So outside, when you open your case, you see that. You're going to get a quote there from me, and that says, gun laws are based in hatred and racism. Historical moments like Black Wall Street will expose lies and make non-believers conform to the truth. Right? That is what we're trying to do. You're going to talk about the truth about what guns are bad and what they've done to people. Right. And nobody's saying these are the only stories I'm presenting. I'm just giving a couple of ones that I know people really didn't know about.
Right.
And at the bottom here, which each one of your guns comes shipped with a TFX. I need to put that in there. At the bottom there, I'm giving you factual statistics of what happened at the incident.
Right.
Giving you facts. So you have all these talking points to run through and let that really seep into your soul about what happened. And look, I don't want people to constantly hear Black America, Black America, Black America. First, I want you to hear Americans.
Right.
Hear that first. And then you can understand why people are saying, we need you to focus on what happened to a group of your American brethren. Now, we can argue if you think African American or Jewish American or Japanese American should be in front of the hyphen. That's a whole different conversation. What we're talking about now is the fact that, yeah, your African American brother was slaughtered. His families were murdered and killed. In 24 hours, they had inadequate arms to defend themselves, and not one single person was arrested. Actually, the funny thing is, the National Guard escorted all the townspeople, all the white people out, and arrested all the black folks after they were murdered. Like, imagine that, right? So don't always get tied up on, oh, it's just another black guy wanting to. No, you don't scare gun control advocates, sir. Mike, you do not scare them.
Right.
I frighten them. So we need to use our arsenal, us all together, to be like, oh, they're scared of you. Well, what can we get this guy? We need to go, you know, if they turn around one day and say, oh, now we're scared of Mike. I'm like, well, Mike, what do you need from me? I want to, you know, and that's what we should be doing. But instead, I have noticed since the release of these, and it's a small population. It is not the majority by whole, but it's a cancerous part of the 2A community that is refusing an education because all they get stuck with is black. And it's like, dummy. If you say in the Second Amendment is for everybody, let people talk. It's like you cutting off a woman if she's out there saying how cool it is for girls to get into shooting, and then some guy comes in, well, that's inaccurate. Shut up and let the woman talk to women. Right. It boggles me, but I digress. I'll move forward. But the first one comes in this case, and now I'll show you the gun because we are gun people. We like guns. So the gun here is built off the HK VP9 platform.
Right.
It is remanufactured for legal reasons. It is now called the Truth. All right. So, and that's exactly what it is. These guns are the first guns to fight gun control by telling the truth about the lies of gun control. Right. That's hence the case. The gun is actually also inscribed Truth. Okay. So what we have here outside of the original platform, quick rundown of the firearm itself into the mechanics. Couple of things I wanted to make sure that I had as a shooter. I've been running this platform for, God, man, I don't know, 3-4 years steady, like without switching up. And I used to keep track, but if I'm going to take a guesstimate, I probably ran every bit of, I don't know, 15, 20,000 rounds out of this gun. Right. You know, so I really understand the platforms. I know what I wanted and what I didn't like out of the gun. So what I wanted to do is change things up. We gave you a great stippling job. This is the stippling in Cerakote, custom, and the framework in the Cerakote, a custom of MLS, courtesy of MLS. I'm sorry. And this guy is just known for doing some of the best work in the industry. Period. He's down. So the stippling texture is it's a nice mid-grade. It's right on that edge of aggressiveness without being, I'm going to rip up your shirt if you put it over me kind of texture. You know, it's we all know that really, really rough texture that goes through that cloth. This is not that. It's right there on that line to give you the grip and things you need. But it's also elegant and soft. Really, it's not going to mar up your hands or make you feel like that you're holding, you know, a wool brush in your hands, but it's going to let you know it's there. I brought the stippling all the way up the back strap. All right, I want it all the way up. It's going to add to a little bit of the control factor with the firearm. Also give you another point of contact and reference with the grip. And plus, it's just, you know, the original models, the way these come out the box, it's just all, you know, polymer here. It's just slick polymer. Yeah. And I'm like, well, if I have a slick hand and I put it on a slick surface, well, slick and slick, right? You get a little bit more slide. But by adding the grip texture there, you're actually able to control the muzzle and the grip of this gun a little bit better. Yeah. All the panels that are come, I know people buy these guns out the box. They love the fact that your back strap and your swells can be interchangeable. Mm-hmm. So when you take them out of the box with your Truth, no matter if it's medium, large, or whatever, all of them are stippled the same. So you can swap them out and still keep the same look for your hand size. So you didn't lose that. The magwell here has been enhanced. This is not an aftermarket magwell. All right, this is actually done from the original one that comes on the gun. We actually have the strip features there. So it's custom done up, great pinky shelf there. And you also have a nice rip feature here for, you know, getting that mag out fast, you know, doing more your fast speed, high speed, low drag stuff. Get that mag out the gun, get it back in. But that is not aftermarket. That is actually modified on the gun itself.
Okay.
All right. So all that little beautiful work there. One of the big complaints I had about the firearm was the European mag releases are great to me, but I would slip off of them a lot. When I go to do a release, my thumb would slip if I'm out in the rain or I've been sweating really hard. And, you know, I was like, man, we got to improve that. And so we did. And so it's hard to see, but you can actually see stippling texture on the release paddles.
Okay.
All right. So you get down there, you slide your thumb down, you go with the natural contour of it. And as soon as you slide down, you just lock right into stippling. And all you do then is a downward press and the mag's out every time. Yeah. Support hand reference points below. We have a Lobos Industries trigger inside the firearm. Now, the original triggers that come in these guns aren't horrible by any stretch of the imagination. But there's always a little room for improvement. You know, we can always do better. So going with the Lobos Industries, you know, aluminum trigger, flat face, let you run it a little bit faster, enjoy your gun. The brake's going to be a little bit better. So we just wanted to add that enhancement to it. You are going to notice it, and it does improve the enjoyability of shooting the gun and the function of it. Let's see here. Yep. The slide. So we have Heine suppressor height sights. If I can steal, sorry, there you go. Heine suppressor height sights on this guy. This particular one has a Vortex Venom 6 MOA mounted to the top of it. That's the one that I chose to go with, and I'll tell you about the companies here when I'm done talking about how they all got involved. But the Vortex 6 MOA is the one I decided to go with. You can get these guns, can be cut for RMRs, which is the same as Hollow Sun. You can get the Smiths, you can get the Leopolds, you can get the Burris. I mean, we can put whatever on here, all right? So this is just what we decided to go with. The slide work itself, you got window cuts, you have a coffin cut, all right? And we have some of the material. If you understand what the original platform looked like, you can see there's shelving that's been cut out in the gun. Yeah. So that's going to reduce the weight of the gun slightly. It's going to reduce the weight of the gun. The window cuts are going to help with that sort of coffin cut. But we did it in a way and engineered just enough weight out where we didn't have to go in and mess with your internals. All right. So that's going to help you once you get out and run it like I want you to run it. You know, things are naturally going to wear down. You put 6,000 to 7,000 rounds to a gun, it's going to be time to change out a spring. It's just, it is what it is. Right. But I wanted it to be where people didn't have a hard time. Like the OEM stuff is always going to be available. I would hate for there to be some kind of shortage and some kind of extra pressure, something I put into your gun and you can't find it. So now you're not getting the same function. So we reduced the weight in the slide just enough to keep everything original. Okay, cleaned it up a little bit, but you can find the parts easily. But it does help with the cycle rate of the gun. It doesn't slam home fast. I mean, it goes home a little bit faster, but it doesn't slam so hard because you got less weight there. So it just makes it really enjoyable to shoot. Now, a lot of guys and girls, I was talking to, some people that I was running the kind of the initial design by, and they're like, you're going to take away my ability to do my press checks. I'm like, calm down. No, I'm not. Relax. So these are the serrations in this are a little bit more aggressive than, well, not a little bit. They're literally double what the depth and the aggressiveness of the factory serrations. These are not factory. They're done in. They're very, very aggressive. So much so you can take this gun, just put it on the side of your jeans and run the slide. Right. That's how aggressive they are. But I built a fighting gun. This is a fighting pistol. So yeah, you might not want to ride it all the way up here. I mean, you shouldn't be doing that anyway, but the guys that like to shoot thumbs forward, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not going to take your thumb off, but you're gonna feel that a little bit, if you put it there. So it depends on you how you want to hold the gun. I personally do this kind of action here. But that is aggressive because I want you to be able to manipulate this gun any way, from any angle that you want to, from wherever you do. Because it's not just about me, it's about what the consumer wants at the same time. So we gave you that back for you can still get your press checks and you can still do one-handed manipulations off the side of your jeans, off the side of a car, whatever the case may be. The front bevel here is something that has been seen before. We repurposed it. It's cut a little bit deeper, but ultimately I repurposed that bevel. And what we're using that for is a lot of times, and I've seen from training people and being a student myself, I notice when we get to these one-hand drills that have really became popular last decade or so, that really became popular, is I watched a lot of guys like try to do one-handed manipulation with the slide off the front and like just jam their burrows up, man. I mean, hitting their burrows on all kind of stuff. So now with any pointed surface or any slightly rounded surface, with these bevel cuts here, you can actually place the cut, which still has plenty of meat, has plenty of metal. You place that there and you run it off of that point of contact without damaging your barrel. Your barrel is safe. Okay.
Right.
Obviously, that would be a little bit more difficult with a threaded barrel, but you still have that option to where you don't have to damage the crown of your barrel when you're doing one-handed manipulations. So those are the mechanical aspects of the gun. And then obviously the less important part is making it look pretty. You need a machine that works, but I mean, let's face facts. It's freaking gorgeous, right? So, so yeah, it's meant to fight. I know a lot of people are like, I'm buying this to collect it. It's a collector's item. That's cool. That is definitely your prerogative. But just please understand that I didn't want people to think that what we're going to do is give you this awesome feeling behind the product because of the case and the story and the mission, and then give you an inferior product. No, this is a fighting machine, right. A real fight. And then we have, on this particular one, you also have the Enforce APL. This is the Gen 3 400 lumen light. It's what I like. I know a lot of people, if you want to start a conversation, start an argument, start talking lumens. Yeah. You're going to get into it, right? But for me, 400 on a pistol I'm fine. I educate people in homes all the time about, using too many lumens, depending on what kind of paint's in your house. You got some good latex paint, man. If you want to try that out, I tell people all the time, and we did it obviously with me in my career. I would check IDs all the time and things like that. And man, you take a good handheld light with a few hundred lumens, and you hit a driver's license the wrong way, you have to shake that off for a second, right? So that is a thing, but I digress. But that's the machine. This is the gun. And then we have a silencer code threaded barrel in here. I went with the aftermarket threaded barrels from the HK design because I didn't want people to deal with the metrics and having to put different pistons in your your cans and things like that. So we went with the half by 28. So you can just put your damn can on it and go about your business. So that helps, and it makes it less of a pain for the end user. And then you get your gun all nice and tidy back to you and you're ready to run. And of course you can see the beautiful, it's hard to see with the glare of these lights, but the NOC logo on top of it. So that is the truth. The other one, which I don't have to run through all the mechanics of it because it's the same gun, it's just smaller, is the Truth C. And if you wanna troll me, which everybody has started to do, call it the half truth is what they're calling it now. They're like, oh, it's a short one. It's the half truth. That was started up by Mike Woodland. It's crazy. It's funny though. So this is the VP9 SK original platform that we remanufactured to be the Truth C. Exact same framework, slide work, exactly the same, minus the fact this one doesn't have an RMR cut on it, or optic cut. If you want that, we can do that for the consumer. It's not a big deal. I'm just not a fan of red dots on compact pistols, but it's not about me, and we can add that on there for the consumer. But other than that, this is the exact gun. The only difference, this one has Trijicon HDs on it as the prototype. All the other guns are shipping with night vision sights on them. You're going to still get, they got a lot of metal on those sights, so you can still do a lot of your one-handed drills and things like that. The tritium is bright in the night vision sights, and they're more cost-effective than running Trijicons on all the guns because it's like a 60 or 70 buck price difference, right? So making sure the consumer gets best value for the buck as well. But other than that, it is literally the same gun. Oh, this one is compensated. All right, it's a truly compensated gun. Other than that, they're the exact same aftermarket work on the guns. The biggest difference between the two, and these are interchangeable, is the case that the C comes in. And so this case is the marred up, beat up case from SHOT Show. The new case has got a lot more details. It pops out a little bit more. But this is the Underground Railroad. And people were like, now when you say Underground Railroad, many more light bulbs go off. They're like, oh yeah, I know that stuff. But here I'll show the case and just give a quick story. So it's the Underground Railroad. So what you basically have is the family of slaves. This is basically we all knew it wasn't a real railroad, right? But the railroad, running through the cotton field, going up into the sky, chasing the North Star. You got 20 birds here that represent 5,000 free slaves apiece because roughly 100,000 people escaped. You have the slave catcher chasing the family, who then runs down into the marshlands where they used to hide for, because you can eat, there's plenty of stuff to eat, frogs and snakes and whatever, gators. plenty of stuff to eat. Plus, dogs couldn't just pursue you through the water; they would lose you. So these were all. This is the marshland. Obviously, the gun. Inside of that one, it says, "I'm gun control's worst nightmare because I'm the inconvenient black truth." And if you don't believe that, I mean, I tell gun people all the time, like, I don't do political. I'm not a politician, and I'm just not. I think politics muddy up the water. I know we have to be involved in it. I get it. Right. I'm not saying we shouldn't. But if you want to think about things from just a political angle, if the story is they are convincing people in these communities that they shouldn't own guns, then who do you think should be their advocate or their opposition in that conversation, right? So, and when I start speaking from things from a perspective that's not confrontational, I'm just talking and I can say things and bring up facts. I mean, imagine just for optics, imagine a white woman that happens to be a politician that is in a neighborhood like mine saying guns are bad and you guys shouldn't have guns. And then I turn around into the same crowd and say, that's interesting. And I start telling stories like these.
Right.
You know, it's like, what do you say to that? You're like, okay. And Black Wall Street was less than 100 years ago. So I don't want to hear the whole, it can't happen. We can talk about Philadelphia move bombing. That was 1985. Mm-hmm. So,
well, it's
not, you know, now, go ahead.
Right, there was a town right after World War II. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, Rosewood.
What was that?
Rosewood.
No, I don't think that was it. It was where the veterans were returned back, and they found out that all the guys that disqualified for military service had stayed back and were running the town. They literally were roughshod over this town as law enforcement stuff. Oh,
you're talking about that was in Tennessee. Yeah, it was in Tennessee because the local politicians went kind of corrupt.
Right.
Yeah, no. Right. Yeah, that was in Tennessee. God. Oh, that's such a great story. Yes. Oh, man, what town in Tennessee was that? But that was in Tennessee, and I was just talking about that a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. God, it'll come to me. But yeah, that was in Tennessee, and that was and people got tired. They were just fed up, and they did the right thing. But so this, when you take this out, the top case of this one, here at the bottom, it's a very controversial visual. All right. Mm-hmm. So that is a slave collar that was placed on slaves whenever they tried to run and were caught to prevent them from running again. That quote up above it says, "I have seen thousands of freed slaves, but I've never seen a slave that wanted to go back and be a slave. But I've never seen one that was willing to go back and be a slave." Right. That is by Harriet Tubman, one of the great conductors of the Underground Railroad. And the point I like to make from that is, remember, gun control now, that's how it started. Make no doubt about it, people. Gun control in the United States of America started for blacks, period, point blank, done. It did. It started for blacks. It's in the laws. I mean, you look at Tennessee, for example. Tennessee in 1865, and gun control started way before that, but in 1865, Tennessee changed their state constitution to read, "All men have the right to keep and bear arms," to "all white men have the right to keep and bear arms." Make no doubt about it. It started for guys like me. Now, the only difference is today, today, gun control doesn't care what color the slave is.
No.
It doesn't care. It started with blacks as the training grounds. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, we're good. Now we will put whomever in there, and it doesn't care. So that's the whole point of, we have fought for freedom in this country. It's been ugly sometimes, right? It's been ugly. But we fought for freedom. So the point of this quote is, if you fought for your freedom, why would you be willing to go back and be a slave? Why? If you fought for it, right? So yeah, those are the cases. Those are the missions. But last point, one thing that people do not know about the Underground Railroad and how guns really play a part. Yes, Harriet Tubman was very pro-gun. But then what people don't know is how the Underground Railroad started. Did you know it did not start as a way to free slaves?
And that's, again, you educated me again on that.
Yeah. So going to get that education, and I won't cover it. I'll let the people do it. But go look up Moses Dixon. Moses Dixon, that system was started as a way to actually, it went from 6 men that had a conversation in St. Louis, Missouri, where I'm from and where I live now, had a conversation about starting war on the South, and they formed the Knights of Liberty.
Right.
And the Knights of Liberty grew to roughly 47,000 men, and mind you, illegally armed black men, right? But they trained, they got sympathizers from Americans, you know, money, shelter, things like that, you know, networks. And even the British sent over crates of guns. Now, obviously, Britain might have had a reason. They had a little bias in there, right? But they sent over crates of guns. So when these guys got armed up, that system was meant as a path of war to fight the Confederate South. Right. Civil War broke out, so it's like, well, hell, let them fight, right? And so then it was repurposed as a way to help the slaves escape. What goes uncovered in history is that now you got 47,000 men that already know this system and have their jobs that are ready to protect this system. So when it got repurposed to just bring slaves back, and because they were going to use it for that after the fighting, but now they're like, oh, that's all we got to do. Right. And so now that the slaves are coming through, the slave catchers or anybody pursuing them will run into armed, trained men that were like, nope, the slaves are running and we're going to stay and fight you. And that's why the reverse Underground Railroad became so popular, is because slave catchers and bounty hunters will have to let people get settled up north where they think they were comfortable and nobody's coming after them. And they will basically kidnap them back into slavery. But the Underground Railroad, freedom, the point of that is freedom always comes, it's either lost or won at the business end of a gun.
It is.
Period. But I digress. And those are the Truth pistols that are available for super pre-order now and will be available. And I'll give you all the information for you. You can put it in the notes. But I will say this about this gun, and then I'll let you continue on with however you want to move the conversation. As much as I challenge America, let me give you a very open and honest moment right now. I only challenge and push because I want us to be better and grow. That's it. We are not going to agree about everything. That's fine. I don't expect it. Matter of fact, I very rarely trust people that agree with every single thing I say. It's like, why? But I will say this: for the ultimate goal of understanding, unity, freedom, compassion for your fellow man, I expected to get a lot of slack over these guns, and I have. I mean, it's a lot of people in the world, and they're going to all have opinions, right? But what I did not expect was the resounding response of people in such a way to where I haven't even officially released these guns yet, and they have half sold out. Mm-hmm. You know, so yeah, we're making a limited number of them, and Americans get it. They get it. One of these guns was purchased by somebody who was anti-gun. This is the first firearm they will ever own, but they bought it because they got it. They asked me never to say their name, and I won't, but it's somebody that had a social media page and everything else, and they didn't just talk about guns, but they did not like guns. But once they saw this gun, they followed me, and then once they saw the gun come out, they bought one. So I applaud every American, no matter where you stand, for your support. And just remember, at the end of the day, it's about using each other to grow and learn. And sometimes we have to realize when our brother or our sister standing next to us can probably do something a little bit better than you can, and then your responsibility shifts to supporting them, right? And I think that's what we need now. We need people to understand that you're great, you rock, but we need your support to amplify the people that your normal opposition is frightened of. We need to get them in positions of conversation and power, because let's face it, Mike, and I say this in all love, your voice, as far as what you represent, and you're not, to me, you're not every other white dude. It's not the way I think. But let's go. When they talk about guns, that's how people opposite of guns think, right? Yeah. Middle-aged white dude, right? That's pretty much what they think. I can respect that everybody's a human being and different, but you know, other side sees it a different way. But what I can say to that is this: when I say that they're not scared of you, man, they're not. They see you coming a mile away. Now, you might shock them with a couple of talking points that they're like, okay, I wasn't ready for that, right? But in their hearts of hearts, they feel like they're ready for you because they judge you and say, okay, you got about 20 talking points we know you're going to hit, right? We've already got our rhetoric to come back and fight it. But when you start, once you start presenting, because you're the inconvenient black truth as well, Mike.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You know? And that's what I want people to realize. And once you start sharing that with people and you start getting those things out, we can take the common talking points and we can take the different voices and we can all share support and pushing and growing. And then collectively, we're unstoppable, because then we truly represent America.
Well, that's it. And the fact that we have to be able to have these respectful conversations, but at the same time, make people uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Okay? Show them the hard truths. Quit being afraid to discuss these hard truths. Okay. And there's hard truths on both sides. I will not deny that. But we have to be open to those conversations. And until we are open to those conversations, until we do start talking about the hard truths, we aren't going to change the way people feel about guns and gun rights. You're still going to have this divided mentality. Okay. You're going to have people that hate guns. You're going to have people that love guns.
Mhm.
And until we start having the hard conversations, you're not going to find those middle grounds, because that's where the middle ground comes in, is when we do have those hard conversations.
Right.
Okay. I have to admit, I did some stalking of you once I found out who you were and once I first learned about you. Okay. And you have some incredible children.
Thank you.
I loved watching you and your interaction with your children in your videos. I love the way that you have taught them to respect firearms, but not to necessarily fear firearms.
Correct.
And that is incredible. And I love the way that you've done that. And I love the way that they come back when you ask them questions about firearms. Their responses. That's just incredible. And my hat's off to you for raising some wonderful children. I'm very impressed with that.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yeah, I love my babies, and I do appreciate those kind words.
After all, at the end of the day, that's really why we are guns, is to protect our families and to protect our communities. When guns are no longer in the equation, you have instances that happen like Black Wall Street. Like we look at what happened in Germany with the Jews. We look at what happened. I mean, you can, throughout history, you can find whatever one that you want to look into.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care. Look into your own heritage. Okay, personally, I come from an English background and so forth. I also have some German in me. But even in my own background, there are stories, there are histories that are hard truths that come from gun control, okay, or arms control, okay, because we need to go back even before that, because at some point, whenever somebody wanted to control the people, the first thing they controlled was the arms. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and give you the last word, Kevin. Is there anything that you would like to pass along to our viewers, or anything else that you would like to say to everybody?
Sure. In summary, well, first of all, thank you guys for listening for so long. I do have a tendency to talk a lot, but we gotta fight. We're trying to win, man. So I try to motivate people and get information out. But so thank you for listening first. Second, follow, keep up with me, follow me. Obviously everything will be in the show notes. So just keep up with No Other Choice and what we're doing. We got some pretty cool stuff coming out. Research, if you will, Aiming for the Truth, which is a whole podcast by itself, which is our community outreach portion of No Other Choice, where we're actually going and we're helping people deal with mental health. We're helping people deal with employment skills, rebuilding their families. I have a big push for getting dads back into the homes or back into the lives of their kids. So we're doing those community outreach efforts because the goal is to aim for the truth. The truth of violence is not guns or bricks or bats. The truth is we have societal ills and societal conditioning or environmental conditioning that breeds violence in general. And we are trying to help people kill violence at the roots by educating them around those conditions and making them better. So we're not looking to fix a person, we're fixing generations of families at a time.
Right.
And then we once we help them establish equity into their lives, and then we talk about the protection of said equity, through the Second Amendment. So look into that. Aiming for the Truth is a great program, in my humble opinion. But other than that, man, just stay. Definitely keep up with the Truth Series guns. If you want one, you'll have my contact information in the show notes. Reach out, send us some info. You'll obviously see in a few days, probably after this drops, the website will be up, so you'll be able to grab one. And just come engage, dialogue. And even if you're not dialoguing with me, I encourage you to first understand that no matter what they might look like on the exterior, you're talking to your fellow American, period. If they're here, and they're here, whether they're a naturalized citizen, immigrant, whatever, they're here. If you're talking to your fellow American brethren, realize that first. We come in, which I think makes us awesome. We come in different flavors and shapes and sizes. I think that's kind of cool, actually. So embrace them, love them, and it's okay to challenge, but challenge with a purpose. And stop infighting so much. I'll say that as well. Let's start making sure that we collectively across the board have a basic understanding where we can go out and we can preserve our rights. Because at the end of the day, if we don't do what needs to be done to preserve all civil rights, and gun rights are civil rights, to preserve all civil rights and enhance them, as a matter of fact, not just keep them where they are, but enhance them. Until we do that, or if we give up on that mission, it's not going to be a black-white thing. It's not going to be an Asian-German thing. It's going to be a peasant-king thing. And none of us are going to like the outcome of that. So stay strong, stay with your fellow brethren, support those that are fighting for your Second Amendment rights. Even outside gun companies, support Mike. I want you guys to share his platform. I'm going to share this interview, because we need everybody's voice is important. Nobody's one voice is more important than the next, but we need the American people amplifying the voices that are out there fighting for us. So please make sure you share this podcast, share Mike's image and his vision with their organization. I would appreciate you sharing mine. Come interact and dialogue and just get active. Get active, people. Get active, please. Stop. Social media is great. It's a way to put information out there, but look, it's not enough. It's not hardly enough. Get out there. Get involved in your local groups. Get involved and have conversations and go places where people don't want you. I tell folks that all the time. I walk into rooms. I have a video. If you ever want to see something interesting, YouTube a video called Into the Lion's Den on the NOC Firearms channel. And Into the Lion's Den is when I went in a room with 30 local politicians that were all anti-gun. Mm-hmm. And had a conversation. So I didn't want them to not say certain things. So I had kind of like this hidden camera thing going on, right. Where you can just see me talking, but I'm talking to 30 politicians that were anti-gun. And that led to them inviting me back out to more community events, right. To really talk about it. So go places where, go help support your local groups. But at the same time, go to those meetings where moms is going to be there, where every town is going to be there. And don't go yelling. Go prepared to have dialogue. Because then you're able to show yourselves in the places where people are coming up with all these rules and these laws, but you're there as a force of reason, and you're there as a force, as a representative that can bring a different discussion. So go to those places. Go where you're uncomfortable, just like we want to make anti-gun people uncomfortable. Right. And I think you'll see the change. So I just say get active, support, push out the 2A, and rock on.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. I'd like to have you on again at some time in the future. Sure. And if you have any events or anything that you would like to promote through us, please get in touch with me and let me know what those events are, and we'll make sure to get you on here so that you can promote them.
Okay. Well, I'll say this real quick. This actually goes for you though. Okay. So, and guys like you. So, Memorial Day weekend, in outside of St. Louis, Missouri, I'll just say that Memorial Day weekend outside of St. Louis, Missouri, we're having what we're calling the NOC Train and Learn Industry event. And what we are doing is we are bringing expert speakers or respected speakers in their fields in. We're going to cover things like building your brand, building your social media, how to network, share partners, how to take, it's a lot of seminars we're going to basically do. Okay. We're going to do that on a Friday evening, May 24th. We're going to do that from 4 to 9, these small breakout sessions. The next day, we're going to run a couple of gun classes. We're going to do a basic pistol course. We're also going to do a small medical training, hand-to-hand training, very small sections, about 30-minute pop-ups for those. Education about holsters and gear. Then we're going to get into shooting. We're going to shoot 2 classes, a pistol class, and then after the pistol class, we're going to get into a vehicle tactics anti-carjacking class that is going to be taught by myself and Ken Scott with Prevectus Group. We'll also have a couple other shooters that are helping. One of them is Dustin Pluth, a nationally ranked competition shooter.
Right.
Will be on site helping. We're going to have that going. We're going to roast a pig live at the range. A full pig. We're going to roast a pig and have, break bread afterwards and talk about our days. And then that Sunday, we're going to do collaboration where people all across the country can get up and collaborate and make all kind of content together, because we're inviting instructors, media, bloggers. I mean, you name it, we're inviting you down if you're involved in the name of freedom. And we're also going to have roughly 10 new or newer guns on site and other gear and equipment for people to actually produce and have content to take back.
Okay.
So, boom. So that's for you, buddy. And all that is a grand total. Well, outside as far as what you pay to register for the class, all that is $150.
Okay.
So keep that in mind and share that with your other buddies that do what you do.
We'll
We'd love to have you down in Missouri. We'd love to have you out on the range with us.
Okay. We'll see about getting that arranged.
All right.
Okay. Again, I appreciate you having you on the show. You have good luck with your projects, and we will be talking to you very soon.
Okay, guys. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers.
Senate rights, when politicians take from you and me the very liberties that set us free. So stand up and fight for this democracy, as you and me were the founders.